This is the Spirit and Wellness Show. News and information from a higher perspective. With your host, Harry Wilkinson.
Hello, and welcome to the Spirit and Wellness Show. This is a show where we take a look at the days and weeks events, happenings in the world of politics, happenings in international news, entertainment, and anything and everything else that pops up and that we are affected by or interacting with during the course of our day and or week. And we take a look at all of these things from a higher perspective. And a higher perspective, I believe, is a wellness issue. Learning how to do that. Learning what that means. That's really why I do this show, why I talk about these things. When we increasingly have what has come to be termed information overload, because of all of the devices in our lives and all of the communication that increasingly speeds up our world, I think it's imperative that people learn how to adjust, maintain, deal with that. Because it will be and continue to be a part of our human existence for a long time to come. There are many, well, I won't say many, but there are those that in being spiritual seekers feel like the best thing to do is just disconnect from all of these things and not have them in your life. And that's understandable. And certainly I believe, there are people who have retreats where they don't use social media or their other devices for a period of time, a weekend, a week, whatever, what have you, to take a break from them. And they do that periodically, and I think that's a very healthy idea. But to feel that you're going to be able to successfully disconnect from all of it is probably setting a standard that you might not be able to meet unless you're willing to live on a mountaintop. You're going to be interacting with these things. That's what I started doing this program for, and mainly to help me remember this, and to be able to take that step back from a perspective that says, this is not the truth of who and what we are. These stories, these activities, these events that may push your buttons. These are illusions. These are creations of our own making in many ways. We exist, from my perspective, we exist at a much higher level. And on this higher level, this higher version of us is completely in control, is creating everything that we're going through. And these things are being created in order to enable us to experience certain things and to reconnect with the truth of who and what we are. And then to be able to, at least the small version of us, the little version of us, the avatar version of us, to be able to expand and become more of the truth of who and what we are on this plane of existence. So that's my take on things. Why would we need to create an illusory world? Why would we want to do that? Well, there are, different opinions on this. I'm not the only one who has this philosophy. This is a philosophy that is centuries old, and there are those that believe that the Earth is a classroom, if you will, a way of teaching and learning as we develop, as we experience a human life from the time we are born through the ages to the time we pass away. It's an experience that, on the level that I'm talking about, that higher metaphysical level, you just can't have. Because as divine mind, at that level, we exist always. We don't have, death. We don't have any of those things that we go through in a human existence. And part of the reason we maybe create this illusory situation is so that we can have that experience. The same way in which we might go to a movie or read a book and have an experience that we would not normally have. There are those that believe that it's all about learning from each other, that this is sort of a classroom. There are others who believe that it's not a classroom so much as a playground in which we get to experience all kinds of different things, all kinds of roller coaster rides and journeys and fantastic imaginings and emotions and beautiful feelings. But whatever perspective is real, and I suspect that probably it's all part of that. That everything is part of that. But from that perspective, we can deal with what our lives are becoming. And I feel like, I feel like, especially since I say these words, or have been saying these words over and over again every Sunday for quite some time now, I feel like I'm being even more severely tested than ever before in the circumstances of my life, which I won't really go into right now, but just suffice it to say that it's very intense and quite challenging, which, of course, brings me to the place where I remember all of the things that I'm talking about. So, this week, and certainly in news, we've had some very high-profile situations. Perhaps most recently, this mass shooting again, which has people talking again about the safety of our schools, the use of guns. It's as I mentioned, when we have these major events that sort of galvanize the attention of everyone, it's clear that, number one, we as a sort of a divine, a mass connected mind have created this situation. And those involved are divine spirits who step forward to take part in this dynamic sort of play, if you will. I don't mean to in any way dismiss or dishonor the seriousness of the events. I don't mean to do that. I'm just trying to give a more of a spiritual perspective on it. And that we've created these to, again, ask ourselves questions, experience certain things, and make ourselves, you know, remember who and what we are, expand our consciousness in a way. So it's very much a Groundhog's Day situation where you experience the same thing over and over again until you don't need to anymore, until either the lesson is learned, if you want to look at it that way, or the experience has run its course, um, and the benefits have been received. So that, in a very long-winded way, is how I talk about these things, how I frame these things. Uh, there are events where we lose someone who is in the public eye, who's very special to us, and those also bring kind of a questioning, a reevaluation of things, and mass storytelling and discussion kind of thing. So, well, this week we are continuing our discussion on. Oh yes, and of course, the other big event that galvanized an awful lot of people and turned another bunch of people off was the wedding of Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, which people, well, not everyone enjoys those events, but those that do, those that are sort of drawn to these events and are connected by them, um, seem to delight in the experience of perhaps, a fairy tale existence, something magical, something that is of perhaps an era even that is long gone, but represents something perhaps romantic or very spectacular. And so, for those who enjoyed the wedding, I'm sure that that is an experience that they take away with. Okay, now back to our topic for today, which is life transitions. And we started talking about this last week. As I mentioned, life transitions, often around this time of year, May and June, there are life transitions going on, whether it be graduating, so students moving on to either their next academic environment or out into the workforce itself. Retirements happen often around this time of year too. Again, people moving perhaps out of the workforce and into the next phase of their lives. And then just general changes, May, June are big times for moving and buying and selling houses and that sort of thing. So if you're in a move transition like I am, that brings with it an awful lot of stress and an awful lot of moments of reflection. I think life transitions do that for us. And perhaps there's less anxiety around life transitions that are very straightforward and, very concrete and that you've been expecting. And that you can point to and say, I'm going from this to that. So, if you're graduating from high school or you're graduating from college, and you know where you're going to, that may be slightly easier to deal with than other kinds of life transitions. If you're going into retirement, again, there's still a big unknown.